In the past couple of months, we literally doubled the amount of qualified book calls that we get on our calendar for our info business, all thanks to the appointment setting strategy that I'm going to break down in this video. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you step by step exactly how we manage conversations in our Instagram DMs to be able to turn leads into book calls so that you can steal the same exact flow and use it for your business. Now, before hopping immediately on the actual conversation and the flow that we use, I do want to introduce ourselves real quick. If you're new here, we are Create Content Club. We have a personal brand of more than 460,000 followers. We are experts in content marketing, and as you can see, our views speak for us. With our personal brand, we were able to reach more than 6 figures with our business in the first year in business with absolutely zero paid ads, zero outreach. And nowadays we're able to collect payments just like this thanks to the strategies that we have, that we apply, and that we teach inside of this channel. This didn't just work for us. These are just some of our clients. And I just want to mention real quick that the goal that we have with this channel is really to share everything that worked for us when it comes to social media so that you can apply to your business and add a new channel of acquisition, which is social media and short form content specifically to your business, to be able to add upwards of 6 figures to it. Now, I also do want to mention real quick, if you're interested in working directly with us and getting our help when it comes to scaling your business with short form content, you can just check the first link in the description. Now, with that being said, let's hop straight into the SOP that we actually use to train our appointment setters and that you can literally steal. I will also leave this link in the description so that you can literally take the same exact SOP to train your setters or to do yourself the appointment setting. All right, so there will be a lot of informations in here, so make sure to take notes, and again, make sure to download this SOP directly from the link in the description that I would add. As you can see right here, we have a portion that will just be to navigate the SOP, since there are a bunch of different sections, especially if we want something structured that our team can actually come in and use and learn how to use, okay? And so as you can see, the way that it's structured is simply overall fundamental rules, okay, at the beginning. Then the structure of the CRM that we actually use, that's also really important. Like, we don't see many people actually sharing all of this information, and we actually really struggled when we were first starting out in figuring out exactly what the best approach to appointment setting was. So that's why we really wanted to share this with you. And so, as I was saying, the CRM structure, the actual script, so exactly what we say in the conversations, the part of objection handling, so how we actually handle objection or overcome any of the roadblocks that might come up along the way whenever we try to book someone, how to follow up, and this is also crucial. This is one of the most important parts, okay, by far, because follow-up is one of the most underrated ways to actually book people, because not everyone will reply, and that's completely normal. And so the majority of the conversation that you will actually recover, you will recover if you do the right kind of follow-up, which is not what most people actually do. Make sure to pay attention also to that part. And then, well, I mean, the last part, of course, you will have to personalize it, but in our case, we also always add all of our assets, both for us and, again, for appointment setters, so that they can come here and find testimonials, client results, free resources, whatever we might want to actually send to prospects to be able to nurture them and to create more trust before they actually book the call. With that being said, let's get straight into the first part, which are the fundamental rules. Now, these are just overall principles that we give that people have to follow, that appointment setters have to follow when they message on our behalf. The first one is sound human. And I know this might sound dumb or like pretty self-explanatory or obvious, like, of course you need to sound human, but it's not a given, okay? Especially when you follow some kind of script, or at least you have some kind of points, which is actually why, and you will see this in a second, when it comes to the script, we don't have like an entire paragraph or like exact messages that people have to send. Of course, we have examples of messages, because that way at least you have an idea of the principles behind what you're supposed to say, okay? But at the same time, it's like the whole point of having a human messaging and not an AI, a bot, or an automation is that it actually sounds real. This is crucial, okay? So as you read right here, you're having a genuine conversation with a person. Even if you have examples below, make sure to avoid always copy and pasting the same thing, and add unique twist and your sensibility to the mix to keep the conversation genuine and not salesy. At the end of the day, and this is, I feel like, the most crucial principle, both with appointment setting, but also with sales in general, it's like, we are there to help someone. And to help someone, we first need to like understand really the position that they're in to see if we can even help them in the first place. And that's crucial. Like, most people forget that. Like, if you're in the info business, at the end of the day, you're there to help people, okay? And so you want to have a genuine conversation with a person in which you understand what their situation is and if you can even help them. And if you can help them, you diagnose the problem, and then you will actually book them into your calendar. Now, the principle number 2, this is crucial, especially when you come from a personal brand perspective. And so this is not ads. It's something in which everything is cyclical. People might take some time before they actually convert to. So never burn a lead, okay? If you have to push the call on them, don't. We'd rather keep a good relationship with them and try again in the future or provide more value. Remember that you're there to help them, not to sell them on something. Again, it's like selling them on something is just a consequence of the fact that we want to help them and we can help them. Of course, like there's context on this, and so you always have to understand when it's just an empty objection and you have to just handle it, and when it's actually not right to keep on pushing, okay? But if it just feels completely unnatural, it just feels completely weird, and it's like you're forcing the call onto this person, then don't do that, okay? Because again, it's like, and this is also something that we've seen very well with our content and with our personal brand. It's like most people come to us and they're like, oh, I watch all of you guys' stuff. I've been following you for 6 months. And it's like, that's when they actually hop on the call. So it's like, you don't want that like 2 weeks after they started following you, push for a call when they are maybe just not ready. And they would have booked the call, for example, 2 months down the line, but just burn them. And then they're like, well, I don't want to do business with these guys. Like, what the fuck, you know? So this is really, really important. Never burn a lead. Speed is key. Really important. This is actually very true in everything in business. Speed matters. The faster we reply, the more likely the leads stay warm and engaged. Good setting doesn't sit on a message. It keeps momentum to getting back to people while they're still paying attention. So this is crucial, of course. Like, the faster you can reply, the better. Now, of course, like, don't be over obsessive as in like I have to reply in 1 second, okay? Like you also don't want to, like it has to feel like a genuine conversation, but a genuine conversation in which you're engaged. And so it's like if you're actually talking to someone, you wouldn't expect them to take like 30 minutes to reply, okay? And so that's why it's really important to always be on the conversation. Now ask questions. This is crucial. This is one of the most common mistakes that new setters make, or people that are new to appointment setting. But again, sales in general, because at the end of the day, this is sales. You're selling the call. You're not selling the final product that happens in the call, but you're selling the call, okay? And so this is a crucial principle. Ask questions. You know what you want the conclusion that they get to be, okay? So you know that they have to get to the conclusion. For example, for us, we sell content. They need to believe that they need content, that we can help them, and that they can do it themselves. But you can't just tell them that. You can't just tell them, oh, listen, you need content. They have to get to that conclusion themselves. And so you ask questions. Like 90% of the conversation is asking questions, okay? Make them get to the conclusion that we want them to get. Never push it on them. So this is the most fundamental principle. It's like, you ask questions so that they get to the conclusion themselves, because that way it doesn't feel pushy. It feels like they came to that conclusion of like, right, I do need content. Fuck, like I need to book a call with you guys, okay? And I know this might sound like a little bit weird, especially at first, because sometimes it's also a matter of asking questions that seem like pretty fucking obvious on your side, okay? But it's like, I promise you, that's like, we had tons of situations like this in which someone is like, for example, oh, I do ads and they are not performing. Of course, like my first thought is like, well, then probably like you should think about doing content, or like at least to reduce your cost or whatever, you know? But that's not how I say it. I would say like, oh, like, what do you think they're not working? Oh, well, because cost is going up. Oh, and have you considered any other alternative? Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I've been watching you guys because I'm considering content. And why content then specifically? Well, because I mean, it's very similar to ads actually. And so I already have some experience in that, but at the same time, it doesn't have all of that cost associated. And so you see, like, they're selling themselves on the idea, but because we ask question and we ask the right question, that's really, really important, okay? You ask question to make them think, and eventually make them understand that they need content. Again, in our case, it's content. In your case, it will be your solution. So whatever that might be, they can't do it by themselves, and that the best option to solve, and that we are the best option to solve this. Now, point number 5, this also seems pretty intuitive to me, but not everyone is accustomed to it. So short messages, one question at a time. That's really important. Like, you don't want to write a paragraph and ask 10 different questions in the same message, because people will just not reply to that, okay? They will get confused. Like, at the end of the day, you always have to consider the conversation as something that has to flow naturally. So it's like, oftentimes, the reason why you do that, like writing long messages or a lot of questions, is just because you're trying to speed up the process. But that's counterintuitive, because it actually slows down the process, because then they will not reply to most of the question, or they will either disappear completely. This is like crucial. It's like understanding the context of where you are. Remember that we are messaging on Instagram, not emails, okay? So no big paragraphs, no multiple questions in one message. That's a turnoff. Because it's like, think about this again, you want the conversation to flow smoothly. It's like if they have to think about 5 different questions that you ask in one message, or like read through an entire paragraph, it's way more likely that they will just not reply, because there's too much friction there. And last, acknowledge what they say, truly listen to what they tell you. And this again, like, seems like basic human communication principles, but still people sometimes don't do that, okay? It's like, there's no worse feeling than realizing that you're talking to someone that can just regurgitate a script. Truly listen to what people are telling you and adapt the script to the situation. This is, again, incredibly true also to sales. Like, we had situations, like, to me, it's just bizarre, completely insane to me. But, like, we had situations in which we hopped on sales calls because we were interested in the program of someone, and we ended up, like, not even thinking about buying, even if, like, in the first place we were like, credit card, like, we want to buy, just because they were clearly regurgitating a script. They were not even paying attention or, like, listening at all to what we were saying. They were clearly just, like, taking sentences from a script and just saying them out loud in front of the camera, as if there was not necessarily like someone specifically on the other side. Like, could have been us, could have been whoever else. So it's like, don't do that. Like, show some empathy. Like, show that you actually truly listen to what they tell you. Like, adapt the script to their situation. It's like, if I'm selling content, and content is a bunch of different things, for example, let's say scripting, filming, and editing, okay? And someone comes to me and they're like a filmmaker and editor. And so they're like, oh, well, yeah, I feel super confident on the filming and editing, and I actually just have doubts when it comes to the scripting. Our program also includes stuff on the filming and editing, but will I sell them on that? No, because if I actually paid attention, then, like, if I tried to sell them as like, oh, and we have this super cool module on editing and this super cool thing on filming that we can do and whatever, they would be like, what? You're not even paying attention to what the fuck I'm saying. I just told you that I don't need that stuff. Whatever you're selling, like the call or the program, so I'm also mixing in sales here, but it's the same, but how you package it depends on what they say. So you truly have to understand and listen to what they're telling you. And this is like, there's an incredible analogy that I always make whenever I try to explain this, which is, imagine this. You went to the doctor because, whatever, your leg was hurting. You get into the doctor office and the doctor just says, oh, hey, this is the medicine. Take it. Like, what would be your first reaction? You would be like, what? I haven't even told you, like, where it hurts or, like, what hurts or, like, what problem I have. You would not trust that medicine to actually do anything or be the right medicine because they haven't asked you any fucking question. They don't know you. They literally don't know what's going on. If you got in and you say, hey, doctor, like, my leg hurts. And the doctor was like, okay. Where does it hurt exactly? Oh, well, it's, like, right below my knee. Okay, what did you do? Like, did you do something specific that made it start hurting? And they ask a bunch of questions like this. Then you will get to the point in which is like, at the end of this whole conversation, even if the medicine that it says, it's exactly the same, okay? If he's like, listen, based on your specific situation, like what you described to me about your leg, this is literally what you need. Because this is not sponsored by whatever this is, okay? But like, this is literally just for people that have the leg hurting right below their knee because they did this weird movement that you told me you did. Then you would be like, shit, like that's literally what I need. And all of it is just because he asked question, he listened, and then he regurgitated that to the other person. Which again, it's like, it's a basic human empathy. Please, like, show some empathy. Like, again, we are trying to solve people's problem. That's the entire goal of what we do, okay? This is just like to wrap up, let's say, the rules. Your goal is identifying the people in the pipeline that we can genuinely help and get them to book a call with us so that we can show them more in detail how we can actually help them. So this is just to wrap up, let's say, the fundamental principles of how we approach all of this. Moving forward to the structure, the way that we structure our CRM is this. Now, we have our CRM in Go level. We use Go level pretty much for everything, our websites, our email marketing, our Instagram automations, whatever. And so for the sake of simplicity, we just keep everything in there. But of course, like, you can use whatever CRM, it doesn't matter necessarily. And we basically just have to filter. This is just every single lead that comes in. And then we pre-qualify them, as in, like, if we just see that they are like third world country or completely anonymous Instagram profiles, most likely they are not qualified. So we'll just put them in not qualified. If not, we message them. If they reply, we move them to the conversation open. And then we have just no response and follow-ups. Then we also have future follow-ups. This is also really important because over time, as you build your pipeline, there will be people that will just not be ready in that moment. But they will be like, hey, listen, like, I really want to do it. I really want to book a call with you guys and I really want to join the program. Just, we finished our marketing budget for this month. Just like message me next month, like, let's do it. Of course, again, always depends on the situation. But if you feel like in that context it would be too pushy and effectively you had a genuine conversation with the person, then rather than pushing, I would rather you just put them there and you have them in mind. And so eventually you just, periodically check your future follow-ups and you actually message them. Then book calls, closed, brand deals, because we have a lot of brands reaching out to us. So we just have a separate column for that. You can delete this if it doesn't apply to you. What we also have here is like what you should focus on in order. So setter wakes up, or you wake up and you're like, okay, cool, let's do the conversations. You open up your CRM. Which one are the ones that you look at first? That's also really important, okay? So the first one, of course, will be the conversations open. These are the people that literally are replying. So, of course, we want to handle those first. 24-hour no response. Now, when it comes to this, it's like, let's see if we move them here because in 24 hours they didn't reply, but let's see if they did reply, so that if that's the case, we just move them back to the conversation open. Now, follow-ups. Again, any of the people that are here, we followed up with them. Let's see if they replied. To filter, so once we actually did all of this, let's see, okay, the new leads that came in, let's actually filter those and future follow-ups. And we also have a stat tracker for our appointment setters. I can give it to you, but honestly, like, it's super simple. It's just like literally a table that says how many messages did you send, how many people replied, how many people did you book. That's literally it. It's just like to keep context of that, and we just push them to keep everything always updated. So all of this is just a little bit more on the technical side. Now, let's get to the juicy part. Let's get to the actual script. Now, the first thing, as I was mentioning, is pre-qualifying. We don't want our setters, or again, ourselves, to waste time with people that are not qualified. So before starting any conversation, make sure that the person is potentially qualified by checking their profile. Point on potentially qualified. We don't know, like, inevitably, like from the profile, we can't tell that much. We can consider not qualified, for example, these cases for us. Faceless pages, clearly from third world countries, or no profile picture, no bio, no post, no nothing, okay? Like completely anonymous profiles, or people that are clearly from third world countries. So unfortunately, even if we wanted to help them, they don't have the physical budget to afford the kind of services that we offer, the kind of coaching that we offer. And so that's just like the starting point. Now, we also do mention here, this is not a cookie cutter solution. So if you're in doubt, it's still worth contacting anyway. You never know. So it's like, if you have the doubt, it's always better to just shoot a message. Like, that doesn't take that much time. The point being just like, if we have like, say 50-60% of the people that are just automatically not qualified, we don't want to message all of them, because like over time that compounds and it's a lot of work, a lot of extra work. But if you're in doubt, why not? Let's just message them. Step 1, opening. Now here we get into the actual script itself and the principle that we use behind it. And this is crucial, again, when it comes to the context of your personal brand. You have to understand how familiar they are with you, okay? Because the more familiar they are, the easier they are to close. And the less familiarity they have, the more we need to nurture them and make them feel like they know us. And this is really important, because it's literally what we've seen in our experience across, at this point, lots of sales calls, in which is like the people that are the easiest to close just come in there and they're like, oh guys, I've been following you for 6 months. I like the stuff that you do. I really know you can help me. Let's do this. I'm not kidding. Like, sometimes it's literally like that. We will still go through the entire process of asking questions, seeing if we can actually help them and everything. But sometimes it's literally like they are just already convinced, because of the power of the personal brand and the content that nurtures them. They get to the point in which is like, they believe already in us. They believe that we can help them, that we know our stuff when it comes to content. And so that's why when we open up the conversation, that's actually the first thing that we started asking. And you will be surprised, but this is really powerful because it gives us a lot of ammunition. Now, does this have like 1000% reply rate? Not really, okay? But it's a simple, straight to the point question that gives us tons of ammunition to decide how we're going to handle the conversation. And at the end of the day, the people that were not going to reply are not going to reply. And that's basically it. So it's like, yeah, sure, you can come up maybe with a more triggering message or whatever, but it's like, again, if someone just doesn't want to have a conversation because they're not ready, they will not have a conversation. And so we might as well just play this first question as something really lighthearted to just try and understand the context and the situation, okay? And so just for context, our leads come from the resources that we put out. So we have lead magnets, people comment XYZ on our post, on our Instagram stories, they ask for this resource, and then we send the resource, and from there we will actually open up the conversation. You can hypothetically do the same with the follow, with the like, whatever interaction that people put that shows interest in what you do. So it's like, hey, I appreciate the follow. Then in this case, this wouldn't really apply necessarily, but you can play with the same concept. Or, oh, hey, I appreciate the like that you left on my last post or on this Instagram story. Just a quick question. How long have you been following? Brother, man, whatever. Like that, like up to you when it comes to how you actually communicate. Of course, it's like if you talk to an older audience, you're not going to say bro. if like always understand the context as well. This is again why we say and we specify at the beginning of all of this, like don't take these messages as a copy and paste. Concept being just how long have you been following us for? And just making it casual, okay? Now we get to the second part. Now this is the discovery. This is where most of the conversation actually happens, because it's literally that portion that I was mentioning and that I was referring to before as like the doctor that diagnoses, in which you actually ask questions. The first thing for us is also kind of trying to understand if they are qualified, somewhat qualified for what we offer. We work with businesses at the end of the day. So it's like, if they don't have a business, it's like, again, cool, we can't help you. Like, take our free resources, take everything, learn from us, but that's basically it. What we would ask is something along the lines of, hey, what are you working on right now? Or what kind of business do you have? Okay, so just, be curious also, be genuinely curious. Like, sometimes I feel like the best approach to this stuff is like there's a person on the other side of the screen here that I'm having a conversation with. Like, I'm genuinely interested in like, what do they do in their life? And so this is just like a bunch of examples of questions. We just want to open up the conversation and get more context on what they do. Okay, so here in this case, we have something that helps us like disqualify people if we see that they are not like a good fit. And this is just like, okay, cool, if they have a coaching, consulting, and service business, or like if they tell us to the question, how long have you been doing this? I've been doing it for like whatever, 6 months, a year, whatever. Currently getting clients somehow. This is like in general for the how do you get clients. So, oh, cool, like this, you have a fitness coaching business. How are you getting clients right now? And we want to understand if they actually have a business up and running. Okay, that's basically it. Now, of course, if they very vague, you can usually tell if they're not qualified. Again, in our case, it's like we sell to businesses. We are more B2B. This might not be the same exact process for you if you're B2C, for example. But you want to understand, okay, what are the things that disqualify people for me, okay? And so still figuring out, just starting to talk, to think about it, whatever. Like, this is just like funny examples, let's say. So maybe some kind of online thing, AI, faceless, whatever. Like, whenever we have those kind of replies, we're like, okay, cool, we know you don't have a business, that's fine. If they are unqualified, like we clearly see they are unqualified, then we will just exit the conversation. Again, we don't want to waste time, and we will just like push them to our free resources or to consume more of our content. If they are actually qualified, that's when we get to the juicy part of like what we actually sell, what we actually help people with, which is content, okay? And so we want to understand their current content situation and challenges. Now, are you posting consistently? What's working for you? What's the biggest challenge? Again, I would never copy and paste this stuff. The point being just like what you ask is questions around content, and there's a content situation, like the situation that they are experiencing when it comes to content. And this is really important. This is like when you know that you need to ask more questions, okay? So you do not want to move forward and build interest towards the call and push for the call if you don't have these three things. And again, you can literally swap up content with whatever you sell. And so it's like, for us, it's that the fact that content is their number one priority. Example, if they're like, yeah, I'm interested in content, I'm interested in doing content. Right now I'm doing both, a mastermind on advertising because I want to start that, and I also want to do content on the side, plus I'm starting some kind of like new outreach method. Are we going to be able to easily sell them on content? We don't even know if that's their priority. Maybe on this random list that they gave us, it's the third thing. And so we either make them understand why content should actually be their priority, or otherwise we will not be able to sell them on this, because it's like at the moment in which I go for like, oh, hey, like, so you're struggling with content when it comes to this and that. How about we hop on a call so we can help you out with this thing? We can give you like some kind of consultation so we can assess your situation and see how we can help you. Then they might just be like, they might just pull the card of like, yeah, you know what, that would be cool, but right now, honestly, I'm more focused on the ad side of things. So you want to handle that. Like, content has to be their number one priority. Whatever you sell has to be their number one priority. The second is that they have a burning problem that they are trying to solve in their content. Because again, it's like, if they're saying, okay, yeah, I mean, like, my content is doing all right. I think I could be doing maybe a little bit better, but it's all right. I get some pretty good views. What are you going to sell there? It's like, there's no pain, there's no interest in, like, there's no burning problem. And so you have to make sure that there is a burning problem. Sometimes there's not. If there's not, you're not going to sell. That's completely fine, okay? The person that walks into the doctor and they're like, oh, I have this, like, whatever, mild discomfort to my leg, but, you know, I can live with it. Honestly, I don't really care. And the doctor is like, oh, hey, cool, buy this $1,000 pill to solve that problem. They will be like, $1,000 pill, like, no, I mean, I'm okay, I can live with it, honestly, you know. So it's like, you either have to dig deeper to accentuate if there actually is a problem, or if you see that genuinely there isn't a problem, then again, it's your exit sign. So, and I know that all of this stuff sounds like counterintuitive, because I'm saying like, do not be like pushy, salesy, whatever, but it's like, you literally don't have to do that, because it's like, if they don't have a problem that you can solve, then it would be genuinely unethical for you to sell something. If they are there, if they're having a conversation with you, if they requested a free resource, if they are consuming your content, and your content is educational content, a certain problem that you solve, then most likely that will not be the case. So it's like 90%, 95% of the time, there might be smoke screen that they throw at you. So you actually have to dig deeper to find out what the real problem is and what they're struggling with, okay? So I don't want to also like you misunderstanding this as like, hey, this is your get out of jail free card. Like whenever someone gives you an objection, like stop the conversation. That's not how it works, okay? Because again, the context that you have to understand is if they interacted with your profile in any way and you make educational content to solve a problem, that means that they feel like they have a problem to solve. Again, 95% of the time, it's not they're just like they are having a conversation with you for the sake of, it's because they have a problem that they want to solve. And so you just have to dig deeper to find out what the problem is and make it a burning problem. And again, please don't use like super weird salesy tactics as in like, oh, what would it feel if like in 6 months you haven't solved this thing in content? It's like, don't do like the basic script type of things. Like ask genuine question, okay? And the third thing that they have to believe is that they can solve the problem by themselves. Because again, then if it's like, oh yeah, my views are completely shit, honestly, like I have no idea of where to find viral content ideas, or again, whatever you sell. But then they add, but you know, I'm working on it. I think I understood the strategy, so I'm actually applying it in the next week and seeing how it goes. So it's like they believe that they can solve it themselves. And if they do, you know, sometimes the right choice in that case might just be like, oh hey man, like that's awesome. Like let me know in 1 week how that went. I'm curious to see like what ideas you found out. Okay, and you might just move them to the future follow-ups. So it's like in 1 week time, I will check on them. If they didn't message me, most likely they will just have forgotten. I will be like, oh hey, so like just curious, how is it going with the content ideas? And then there is usually where you actually start revealing the problem, and they might be like, yeah, you know what, like I actually tried, but I don't know, I've been spending the last 3 days on searching content ideas and still like I didn't find it. Now of course not always they're going to serve it to you on a silver plate like that, okay? But hopefully you get the concept. Before the call, let's say interest building, okay? So depending on the familiarity, we either share free resources to solve the problem or push for the call to solve the problem. So again, this is the concept of what I was saying. There's different levels of familiarity that people will have with you. So it's like if they have been knowing you for a while, usually 3+ months, okay, with content is a good thing that you can aim at. It's not cookie cutter. If someone has been following you for 2 weeks, but they're like, oh yeah, I've watched all of your videos. Like I found about you 2 weeks ago and I watched all of your videos. Then it's like, cool, you again know that they are sold on you and they're familiar, okay? But if they are a little bit more cold, if they're like, oh, I started following you today, they don't even know exactly what you do, whatever, then in that case, our approach, and again, I know this might sound counterintuitive, but it's like we don't push for the call. We might tell them, we really understand what the problem is in this phase. And then it's like, okay, cool, you're struggling with scripting. Hey, listen, man, like we actually have a 30-minute lesson that we made on scripting in which we like show you live how we would do it, like how we think about it, how we find the content idea and whatever. And then you ask, do you actually want me to send it over? Do you mind if I send it over? Okay, you ask. Because that's the other thing. It's like you still want to be in a position in which is like you're giving them something valuable. They have to really want it. At this point, what usually happens is like they will just consume this and this will speed up the warming up process. So it's like then from there you can actually follow up and be like, oh, like how did you find the resource? Or if they of course don't message back. And then from there you restart the conversation, but with them knowing you way more and trusting you way more. And eventually you will fall back again to they are familiar, cool, we can push for the call. And so here, as you can see, like kind of the two structure of messages we have for this one is, okay, hey, listen, we actually make it an in-depth guide, video tutorial course, whatever it is about the problem that they have, and say it with their own words. If they told you like, I have a problem in finding content ideas in the real estate niche, okay? Hey, we actually made a guide on how to find content ideas. Of course, don't lie. If it's not like on specifically on real estate, you will not say real estate, but it will be like that you can literally apply to real estate. You can take the same exact concepts and we show you live how to do it. Whoa, this is literally what I need. Otherwise, if we actually are in the situation in which they're familiar and we can push for the call, then we will be like, hey, we can definitely help with XYZ, that problem that you have. This is genuine. Again, it's like if you have a whole problem and we have to build out a strategy, like I will not be able to tell you in a message. It's not like deceiving or anything. It's like if I have to solve a problem with someone and it's like a huge problem, then it's like I will not try to solve it with messages. I will just be like, hey, let's hop on a quick call and let's talk about it. We can definitely help you with the problem that you have, but honestly, it would be difficult to go over over it here in the DMs. How about we have a call together where we go exactly the strategy that we would use. Don't copy and paste shit. This is just an example. This is just an idea adapted to the conversation that you're having. But the thing is, like, at this point in the conversation, it shouldn't feel weird. That's the whole thing. If you feel like this is pushy, like going for the call, then it means that you didn't do the right job on this side. If you did the right job here, they're like, I have this huge problem, I can't solve it myself, I need to solve it now, and I know you can help me. Then at that point, if I offer you the call, it's just, yes, fuck, let's do it. Like, I want to solve this problem, like, makes sense, let's go, okay? This is the last thing. We usually go through an extra step, which is sometimes we might still have people slipping through the cracks that are not really qualified. So we might ask extra questions before getting them to book if we're not 100% sure that they are valid. Another option, this is actually something that we oftentimes do to make sure we don't lose the call, is we book them. And then if we see, because when they book, they fill out some information, we see that they don't seem 100% qualified, we ask questions afterwards. So we already have the call locked in, written on our calendar, and then we just like go ahead and re-qualify them. I mean, like, this is, again, pretty straightforward, and it depends a lot on what you sell. Call booking, once they book, we actually send a link to the call, and there are a couple of other things actually, because what we would do is we send a link, and this is also the other thing, it's like if they object that they can't find a spot at a time that works for them, then we might go with, we have a section on objection handling. This is not a real objection. It will be just like, okay, cool, logistical problem, let's find a solution. But this is basically just it. Like, we send the link, and then we will probably be something along the lines of like, oh, hey, like, sometimes we also say like, oh, the link is temporary, just let me know once it's booked, so I know that you actually got the call booked and the spot booked in. And post booking, we just confirm, we send the link to the call, and then there are just a couple of things that we can add depending on the situation. So it's like, if it feels like they're still not 100% warm and they maybe don't trust us still like enough, we might send some testimonials, some more resources in the meantime, or, you know, some client results. This is actually really powerful also if they have a specific goal and you know that you have a testimonial or a result that match perfectly what they want to achieve. Then it's like, this is just going to hype them up and give them more reasons to show up to the call. So again, some examples of messages that you can use for that. And again, this is, if they're not that familiar, we might just send them to our main landing page, in which there's not only all of the results that we got for clients, but also our main VSL, in which we explain all of our system. Now, we do have like a couple of parentheses. We do have like a low ticket course that we usually sell as a side resource if we really can't get someone to the coaching because they just don't have the resources financially. And so it's just like, if we had the whole conversation with them and they're really motivated, they want to start, but they just don't have what's required to join our coaching programs, then we might just be like, hey, listen, like, we have this other package. So again, this might be relevant to you or not. Depending on that, you can just delete this section if you don't need it. Same thing for brand partnership. We just have some pre-made stuff whenever we actually communicate to brands. And then there is the objection handling side of things. So I can't find a time that fits my schedule. Again, this is not a real objection, okay? What we would usually ask is for their availability, so that we know times that will make sense for them. And what we would usually do is just be really proactive. It's like, if they send you their availability, you know, in the back end you have a spot. Okay, cool. I know that I have this spot. I'll book them in. I'll put the call in. I'll send them the link and I'll be like, okay, cool. Then I booked you for this time. Let me know if you confirm that that works for you. But I already did it. So it's like, that's why we usually try to ask for their availabilities. That's it. Here we have some instructions. Again, this you can tweak depending on whatever, but it's like, we give our setters instruction as in like, hey, listen, like, if you have to find a spot on our calendar and you can't, and we can't tell you when we're available, just book them in somewhere at these times between morning and night, and then we will just figure it out. This is really important. This is actually something that we've seen happening a lot of times. Whenever someone has, these are just like the main things that can happen throughout the conversation. So this is like, if contradictions appear in the conversation, or if they are not clear, you want to call them out gently. Of course, you don't want to be rude, but seek clarity. Like, try to understand. This is like a classic thing. Someone might be in the conversation. This is something that we've seen, especially with our appointment setters, that even if you have a little bit of experience, it can happen. It's like, someone comes to you and when you ask, for example, oh, what do you do? Or actually, for example, what they're trying to do to scale their business. And they might be like, oh yeah, I'm trying to like optimize the back-end systems and scale up the team. I literally have no fucking context of what you're doing exactly. And so I would ask, this is really important, don't just validate it. Don't just be like, oh, hey, got it, man, that's cool, and then go on with the conversation. It's like, I literally don't know what the fuck they're working on in their business once they said that. So it's like if they're too generic and it's like just feels like fluff, like they actually didn't tell me anything, I would be like, oh, interesting. Like, and what do you mean by that exactly? What do you mean by improving the backend? And then they will actually dig deeper and start explaining. Probably they will be like, oh, well, actually, we are building out this automation system for this, and that. Oh, interesting. And why is that? Oh, because recently we didn't had a lot of time to manage everything. So it's like you start unveiling problems if you actually dig deeper in that sense. Don't just be like, okay, got it. If you didn't understand what the fuck they're saying, say it. Just like be like, what do you mean by that exactly? And another thing is like when there are some contradictions, when they say something and then the opposite thing. And again, that also happens very often. You would be surprised. But they might be like, oh, hey, we're having a conversation with someone, and again, say they're running ads, and they're like, well, ads are getting crazy expensive and they're cutting too much in my profit margins. And then later down the line in the conversation, they're like, oh no, like I'm pretty happy, honestly, with how much we're making. I would call it out because otherwise it's just like there's discrepancy there. And so sometimes they might just not even realize. I would be like, oh, got it. I thought you said that you were having some issues when it comes to the profit margin for the ads. And then that might pull out the problem again and like make it more clear and more vivid to them. Oh yeah, no, yeah, actually, I mean, we're okay with the money that we're making, but profit margins are effectively are not the best, I have to say, okay? And so it's like, again, you just want, this is like the principle behind both of the situation. You want to make them clarify their logic, reveal more info, and admit the gap, okay? The gap that there is. Again, if there's no gap, there's nothing that you can actually solve, then there's no sales. Last one, this is an interesting one. Might be a little bit controversial, okay? But if someone is giving you an attitude, or like they reply with monosyllable responses, or like they postpone the booking, for example, you already sent the link and whatever, what we started doing, and this actually we didn't come up with it ourselves. We took it from someone that we studied the appointment setting strategy from. I honestly, genuinely don't remember the name of the guy, so don't quote me on this. It's like, if you know who the guy is, you can mention it in the comments. Is the strategy of just saying, all right, man, I can tell you're not serious about this. This just triggers people. If they are genuinely not serious, they don't care, they will just not reply. If they are, but they've just like been doing other shit and like they just got distracted, they will usually, and it actually works incredibly well. We were surprised by that, but they will actually be triggered and they will reply. And they will be like, no, like I am serious about this. It's just like I've been busy, but yeah, let's do it, man. This is really powerful whenever someone disappears for no apparent reason. You don't want to throw it out there random. It's just like, again, if they're giving you an attitude, they feel like, they're hot shit or whatever. They're like, oh, no, yeah, I got this, bro, like whatever. And it's like, while they already gave you a problem though, because it's like, again, you're having a conversation and then something like this comes up, or again, they're like, oh yeah, I'll book the call next week. And you can generally say this because like, if you're telling me you can book the call next week, then, and we already established that you have a burning problem that we need to solve now, then I can tell you're not serious about this. And so again, if they're not serious about this, they will not reply. If they are, you will just trigger them and you will keep on going with the conversation. Some people might take it as rude. That's fine. You can just explain it. So the idea behind this is like, we actually had it a couple of times when someone was like, oh, but maybe you shouldn't be acting like that. Maybe you shouldn't have all of this attitude. Like, I'm actually serious about this. It's just I've been busy. I told you. Then we might be like, okay, cool, man. It's just like you stopped replying completely. So I just assumed you were not interested anymore and this was not actually a priority. Always take it with a pinch of salt. Like, don't exaggerate on this stuff. But this is really powerful to just like trigger those people that are just like postponing it or like not giving it enough attention. And again, given that you unveil they have a problem, you can solve that problem, you are in that situation in which it's just like they start feeling like hot shit, or for example, they just start pushing the booking, and again, it's just because they actually don't seem serious about this. Crucial part of all of this, the value-based follow-ups. And this is like 1,000% more effective than the classic follow-up of like actually just messaging back people and be like, oh, hey, like, are you still good, bro? Like, are you still good, man? Do you think it over? Whatever. That shit doesn't work. I promise you that. We tested it out. It doesn't work. It's like, it just sounds desperate. It's stupid as fuck. So don't do that. Pardon my language. But the idea behind this is standard follow-ups don't work, because if they didn't reply, it's because they don't have a reason to. Why would they reply? Why would they reply if you just like ask them 3 times extra to reply to the message, but you didn't add anything to the conversation, okay? And so the idea, and of course, like it's like the first follow-up sometimes might be good enough if you just want to follow up with a normal message, because it might be that they actually genuinely forgot to reply. But more often than not, it's not the case, okay? We're all on our phone all the time. You see messages, we see messages, everyone sees messages, okay? So because of that, our follow-ups always have the goal of providing more value. What we would do is we would just ask based on the conversation that we had with this person. Of course, like this means that if the conversation never opened, then we don't do follow-ups. Because again, it's like if someone doesn't reply to the first message, so they are not interested in having a conversation, you're not gonna get them by just keeping on being pushy and like being like, oh, reply, whatever. Like that doesn't work. If you are having the conversation and they disappear, then we probably at least already have an idea behind like what they do or what the problem is. And so what we would do, we'd just be saying like, hey man, we just finished creating like this resource on XYZ problem that you are struggling with. And then we ask, do you want me to send it over? This just invites to reopen the conversation. You would be surprised of how effective this is. I promise you, try this. You will thank me later. This is incredibly powerful because often like this gives me a reason to reply. If I just lost interest in the conversation and I went away, but then you come back to me and you're like, oh, hey, listen, by the way, like I thought this might just be useful for you because you told me this thing. And so I have this thing that solves that problem that you told me about. Do you want me to send it over? And it's a free resource. Why not? You know? And it allows me to reopen up the conversation. We actually do this progressively over time. So we do it after 3 days. We do it after 14 days and 30 days, and then we actually just stop. And the other thing, of course, is the follow-up as like future follow-ups. We know this person told me like, hey, reach back to me like in 2 months down the line when we have, again, the marketing budget for whatever, the year, and so we can actually invest in this. And so we might also have these instances, these situations. Assets, this is really important. Give this to your setters or also for yourself. It's really good to keep everything organized. Like we have here all of our testimonials. We have here all of our client results. By the way, you can also check the testimonials in the link in the description if you're curious if we actually know our stuff. And then free resources that the setters can send, okay? And so this is also really powerful. They have all of these assets that they can use for the value-based follow-ups or even just to build more familiarity that they can send to people. So this is literally it. This is the entire strategy. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you want our help to scale your business with content and with the content systems and sales system that we also apply to our personal brand, then you can just check the first link in the description. With that being said, make sure to also subscribe to the channel because we keep on sharing value exactly like the one in this video that you've seen today. We covered a lot of stuff definitely, and you will also find this SOP in the description of this video. And with that being said, we'll see you in the next video.